Welcome everybody. The closing line, October the 6th. It is Friday, a football Friday, the end of the week. We've just about exhausted all options during the week, talking NCAA football and NFL football. Major League Baseball also in action today. A nice four-pack, giving you that nice little, sweetener on top before we head into the college football games tonight and also college football tomorrow as well. I'm your host tonight, as usual, Donnie Rightside, bringing in my guest host today, Drew Martin, every single Friday. Follow him at Drew Martin Bets. We'll be able to talk some NCAA football, go over, pick and choose. Live chat box going to be a lot of fun tonight. Drew, welcome into the show today, buddy.
Hey, Donnie, thanks for having me, man. Excited. The Friday show and what college football, NFL, it's a hell of a weekend to be a sports bettor with MLB full swing playoffs. So it's a great time of year, man.
No, certainly a lot of fun. They're not too sure if we're going to get a hold of CG Technology today. Usually Matt Holt comes on today, and also maybe his assistant Devin might join us around halfway through the show. If not, no big deal. We'll just carry on. We'll hit the chat box there. But if he does, we'll get a good look of where that money is going this weekend so we can check it out. Once again, welcome into the show. Hopefully, hey, any questions you have on the chat box, please feel free to hit us up there. What game you want to go over, we certainly be able to take a look at it. Drew Martin, that's what he does. It's college football. So today we'll have a lot of fun. Drew, let's talk a little bit of Major League Baseball here. And if you're not taking the home chalk and you're not taking the overs, you're going to end up needing a home equity line of credit, a cash out refinance, or tapping into your 401k. Houston right now, top of the ninth inning, 8-1 over under in that one. Looks like it closed between 8 and 8.5. So regardless of what number you got, Drew, ends up 8-1 right now. Waiting for that game to close out. Dallas Keuchel was really good on the mound. Pomerantz got roughed up early. Houston's a good ball club, Drew. What do you think about that game?
I mean, it's Houston's really showing their muscle here. It's crazy just looking back at it. The lefty matchup against that Houston lineup, and like you touched on, I mean, the home chalk just cashing tickets left and right so far in the MLB playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take too much. I mean, Jeff and I talked about it today on the right side of campus. I mean, I'm not going to fight the urge and say, let's go super sharp here. I actually thought CC Sabathia and Kluber might start out a little bit lower scoring. That's already 3-2 as well on its way. Looks like over-under closed in a lot of places, Drew, at 7 in that one. And if we take a look at an update here, looks like Boston just scored. I'm going to assume maybe a base hit or a solo home run. I don't have the monitor up. 8-2 now. That's 10 runs. And well on its way again, 3-2. Looks like in the Yankees game, knocking around Sabathia early, a couple errors, a couple interesting things happening there. What'd you think about these series overall? I mean, I don't see very much in the way of an upset. I thought Houston would be able to win the series versus Boston, and I thought Cleveland would be able to handle the Yankees. Looks like it's going status quo right now.
Yeah, pretty much chalk all the way. It happened the same thing with the play-in games as well. I thought Colorado might be the play with Gray on the line, but that was definitely the wrong side. And maybe, one thing I read Dave Malinsky's piece, Point Blank on SBR Picks. He was waiting for the Cubs to lose now and then bet the series price on the Cubs after a loss, being down 0-1. It made a little bit of sense to me. It actually made a lot of sense to me. So that's one way I would look to bet the MLB playoffs, Donnie.
Yeah, even taking a look at it, Drew. I mean, you could say taking value where it's at. If you did it in the Houston game, obviously it didn't work out too well. But if you're doing it in the Cleveland game, Cleveland's a heavy favorite. They get down 2-0 right away. It's only the top of the first inning. You bang and take Cleveland, that one probably at a plus number at that point. And they're up 3-2 already in the bottom of the second. So there are some fun in-game options that do make sense. The same way, Drew, we look at, college and professional football, where if you had a decided advantage on a game that you liked, a team was favored by 4 points. They're down 7-0 early. You'd go ahead and take them at that point. Obviously down 7-0, but you get a much more advantageous line and usually some plus money on that. Always an interesting way to talk about. There's 2 more games on the docket tonight. Chicago and Washington, Hendrickson, Strasburg. Jeff and I talked about this game earlier. I'd still would lean towards Strasburg. I'm going to go home chalk again, -152. Not a bad price in that one. And I would lean again on the over 7.5. These playoff teams, Drew, I get they have aces on the mound. They have bullpens, but they're in the playoffs for good reason because they can hit the baseball 1 through 8. And all these teams, typically are going to be able to put up a fight even against good pitching. It looks like they're doing that now here.
Yeah, I mean, another game, just home chalk all the way. Strasburg, he's gone 53 innings or 52 innings with only letting up, or 52 of 53 innings. He hasn't let up an earned run. I think that's the stat. So just absolutely killing it. 5-1 since coming back from the DL. Yeah. I'm not looking to step in front of him. Not tonight anyway.
Yeah, that should be a fun one to watch. I'm looking forward to that series. I want to see which Washington team shows up because they're 1 through 8. It's a very powerful lineup. They have the starting pitching, and also worried a little about Max Scherzer here. I mean, not right. Little hamstring injury might throw a wrench in that game. Late night, 10:31 start Eastern time, 7:31 Pacific. Taijuan Walker, Clayton Kershaw here. Obviously, everybody's going to be leaning towards the home team here, but you're not getting a very good price even for a playoff game. Minus 260 with Kershaw. I think that obviously the right move here would still be to take the Dodgers. I won't be laying that much money, but talked about it again today. I'll lean again on the over in that one. It's 7.5 right near. I think the Dodgers can do heavy lifting in that one, put up 5 to 6 runs. So you're just looking to scrape out a few for Arizona. I'll lean towards an over in that ball game as well.
Yeah, what is it? It's like the ball's juiced in the MLB playoffs, man. All these overs hitting. I guess it is a night game in Dodger Stadium. That's something that I usually like to stay away from hitting overs. But yeah, I could see the Dodgers, maybe a Dodgers team total over, considering Kershaw's on the hill. But yeah, I wouldn't talk you off of it, Donnie.
Yeah, no, I can't see it any way. And if you're looking again, sometimes you just have to ride the wave that comes in here. They're a better baseball team. All of these teams, they are at home. That's why they got that advantage. That's why they played 162 games to decide who the best teams are and give them home field advantage. So that's what you're seeing right now at this point. We'll see how some of these games end up. A long way to go in the Cleveland game. It's only 3-2. Both of these teams pretty explosive at the plate. I did see that Edwin Encarnacion left the ball game for Cleveland. So, a little bit of power, deduction there in the lineup. We'll see if that plays out. And both of those teams have very good bullpens. So one of these late leads, one would think that they would hold up here, Drew. Why don't we start talking some NCAA football, as we say here on sportsbookreview.com. It's Football Friday, Drew. It's what people come in for. It's what we want to bet this weekend. There's a couple games tonight we can take a look at. 3:07, 3:08, a 7 p.m. Eastern time start here. Memphis and Connecticut. 12,000, almost 13,000 tickets tracked offshore. 72% of those tickets, Drew, heading towards the Memphis Tigers. Line opened up around 14, 2 touchdowns there. Sitting at Chris at 14.5. Sportsbook.com at 15.5, 74.5, and 75 showing up in the totals here, Drew. Any ways that you might be leaning towards this one? To me, I like Memphis. They're a good football club. I think Connecticut can score on Memphis. I don't like Memphis's defense that much. If I had to have a play here and it's sitting over 2 touchdowns, Drew, just being a gambler here, I would lean on taking the 14.5 or 15.5, depending on where you're shopping here. How about you?
I'm not sweating anything tonight either, Donnie. Although I kind of agree with this move towards the over. Even shown as high as 74.5, now 75 at WagerWeb. I just think that the Connecticut defense, not very good. Memphis's defense, I definitely wouldn't grade as good. I mean, not terrible. I think that they've kind of had a tough go of it, especially in that UCLA game. But both teams going to be running tempo. We know Rhett Lashley. I know a lot about Sheriff's, the quarterback. He can make stuff happen with his feet as well. So I like that matchup against the Memphis defense. So if I'm betting this, it would be on the over. I'm hoping for a little comeback, though. I mean, 74.5 is a little high. I like to get a little bit more value. But I do see points being scored in Connecticut.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, Connecticut, obviously, from being from Auburn, they do have their offensive coordinator there this year, and it's a much more up-tempo. If you watched last year, Bob Diaco's Connecticut team, one of the most brutal things on your eyes that you can watch, a slow-down offense, a quarterback that had a little bit of maneuverability back there but couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a pass. A little bit different now. At least they're going up-tempo at this point. You're going to get a lot more plays out of them, but the old adage goes, it's 75. Every single thing is going to have to go your way to hit this total. So good luck if you're taking it there. It did open up at 72.5, so you do have a better number if you got in early in this one. Chris opened up at a 70, but 75 sitting at sportsbook.com. I'll just lean on taking Connecticut in this one and see what happens there. Late night game here, Drew, 10:15 Eastern time start. Boise and BYU. Some late information coming through here today. Boise State. Mangum looks like he is going to be probable. Whether or not he starts is another thing. And also, is he effective in coming into this game? Because I know they do have some quarterback injuries across the board. Line now sitting at -7. 7.5 at Bovada, 7 at the Greek, 7 at Bet Online. So depending on where you're shopping at, it's probably going to end up around a touchdown. Over under now at 47.5. So it looks like some people are coming back in now that they think Mangum's going to play in this football game. I don't have much of an opinion here. If Mangum does play, I don't know how effective he's going to be for BYU. BYU, albeit a tougher schedule, but getting shelled in most of those starts. I'll lean on Boise State in this one. If it's at 7, I'll take the 7 and lay it on the road here.
Yeah, Donnie, hey, just asking you real quick. Did I say the Memphis defense was good?
I don't know. Did you say that?
I didn't mean to. If I did, I had a couple guys in the chat room were like, Memphis defense isn't good. I'm like, I didn't mean to say that they were good. I meant to say that they were better, in my opinion, than Connecticut's defense. So just to clear that up, no, I don't think that they're good, and hence why I like the over. But Boise State, yeah, that's the only way I would look. I mean, -7. I think that BYU is just fade city, man. I'm just not interested in them. What are they? 0-4, 0-5 ATS so far this year. Even if Magnum plays, I don't like their skill position talent anyway. So yeah, he's pretty accurate, could put the ball in their hands. I just don't like their athleticism on the outside. I don't even really like Boise State that much, Donnie, this year. But even though it's only -7, I still think that Boise State's the more talented team, can make more happen at the offensive skill position. So I would go with the Broncos in this one.
Yeah, should be interesting. Anything out there on the live chat that you want to go over? Obviously, it's an open board for tomorrow. Not a great card overall when you're trying to, dip in and say, where are these big national games? There is one national game that is going to be of interest to me, obviously being a big Miami Hurricanes fan. A 3:30 start here on the Panhandle up in Tallahassee. Line looks like it's sitting 2.5, actually poked through at Chris a little bit earlier today. Sportsbook.com -3, BetOnline -3, the Greek -2.5. So that number is coming down. It was surprising to me, just saying Miami is a favorite heading into Tallahassee. Have struggled with them over the past, since 2009, haven't beaten them there. There have been some close ball games, but not being able to get over the hump. Rozier is going to go in there as the veteran quarterback as opposed to Blackman on Florida State. An overall, to me, more talented offense, Miami. Both of these defenses are very good, very talented. But if you're asking who's going to be able to score the points here, I'm thinking it's going to be the Miami Hurricanes. Much better at wide receiver, more settled in quarterback. Obviously, Walton might be the best player on the field offensive-wise for both of these teams. Either way, Amon Richards, a very talented wide receiver for the Miami Hurricanes. If I had to put a wager on this game, I probably won't be anywhere near this one, but I would lean on Miami. It's one of those games, Drew, where Florida State's struggling, got lucky to get out of Wake Forest last week, and it's one of those things where you circle the wagons and say, this is the time we beat them. We can't let this one slip away, even though it is on the road.
Yeah, I mean, at first glance, I'm like, man, Miami's the side. But then after digging deep, I will say, like, Florida State's schedule has been pretty tough as far as who they've played and how the market has priced them. I think that, Bama, NC State, even Wake, I think is a little bit underrated. So I kind of want to keep that in mind when looking to bet on this game. However, I'm with you. I think Miami defensive line is going to get after it, cause a lot of problems. I think turnovers could be plentiful, a couple for FSU. And even though it's in Tallahassee, I still like the Miami side. However, I'm like you. I haven't bet this game. I probably won't. I just think Miami grading them out. They're a real volatile team. I'd like to be able to see them play a little more. Missing that game against Arkansas State, I think that would have been a good barometer to put Arkansas State, Miami, really see how that game played out. But also remember, I was just doing research a lot on this Hurricane Nate. The Tulsa-Tulane total has dropped already 10 points. Watch out around that area of the country, Tallahassee being there, man. I would be very careful betting this game over on the total just because of the weather alone, Donnie.
Yeah, I was trying to see that track because the original track coming up about a day or two was actually more towards Tallahassee, which you saw some of the reports coming out saying, hey, Miami's got to keep an eye on this. They already had it postponed if it, shift, but it looks like it shifted over towards New Orleans. That was the one that I was trying to actually find out to see if that was going to affect it. They moved the game from 3 o'clock up to noon, which I guess New Orleans time would be 11 a.m. to try to get it in earlier. I don't know how effective that weather is going to be in that football game because both those teams don't pass the football very much. If we're looking at Tulsa, more of a running up tempo from what you saw a couple years ago with the way they operated. But also Tulane, Willie Fritz, they're looking to run an option game as well. I was trying to build a case. I talked to Jeff earlier on how I can see what's possible. But you're right. The hardest thing to do with weather, it's unpredictable. So let's just say you say, you know what? Saw the under come down from 61, 62 to 55. I haven't taken a look at exactly to see what it is in the past 15 to 20 minutes. But if you're going to bank a player an over-under based on the weather coming in or the impact, then it's wrong. What happens if you show up at 11 a.m. and the storm got there a little bit sooner and it's a monsoon like it was for San Diego State and Air Force? Doesn't matter. Nobody's going to move the football. But what happens if that holds off a little bit where you're actually getting a nice day and you might get a free 6 to 7 points? So it's always interesting. You might want to monitor that if you're taking it as opposed to taking it now to see if, beat writer gets there. Hey, nice weather. Looks like we're going to be able to play this one and get it in. I agree with you on that. It's always tough to factor in weather because if you try to pinpoint something that you like and it goes completely different, you're going to be out of some money there.
Yeah, no, and that was one that I actually kind of bet under on the open, irregardless of weather, just because I think that Tulsa
now. Good call. I'm glad you brought that up. Because, Drew, I didn't see that this earlier. When we were doing the right side of campus, we were laughing at like the 55 and a half. Now at 50, I'm going to have to revisit that tonight and really take a look at that, man. Glad you pointed that one out. We lose you over there?
Yeah, Donnie, I'm not sure if you can hear me. Yeah,
I got you there. We got you back.
Yeah, no, that total's been hammered towards the under from what 61 down to
50 and a half at Pinnacle right now. Oh man, this is now. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Now I'm glad. You know what? Getting at the old Donnie right side pad right now for after we get off to do some extra Columbo work here on this chat box. That's why we do it live right here, and stuff moves really quick. And you're right. It's when you said 10 points, I was like, maybe it opened at 65 and I missed that. But you're right. 50 and a half it's showing now, down from 61 and a half.
Yeah, 10 full points, dude. And what, if you pull it up on Chris, I think it just dropped 5 points in the last like 2 hours, 3 hours. So it's
and again, like I want to preface this by saying, like, if it was, let's just say, Drew, Texas Tech and Oklahoma, like we want an aerial assault, how are you going to do it in 25-mile-an-hour winds and rain? You're not going to do it. But these two football teams are built for bad weather, the way they operate. So that's really an interesting one. I'm going to definitely write that down. I'm glad we dipped in that even more, because I was telling you, like talking to Jeff earlier, I was actually liking it at 54, 55. Now it's at 50, and I'm seeing the latest updated information. 11 a.m. You got rain. Only about 12 miles an hour, 12 o'clock, light rain throughout the afternoon. So it doesn't look like it's going to be monsoon conditions where, if you can't kick a field goal because the wind's blowing back in your face. So that's going to be some food for thought for me. I'm going to check in a little bit later, but that's a lot of value, especially because also, Drew, we're talking about Tulane Stadium here. It's not on grass. It's not going to be muddy. It's not going to be chalked up. It's a nice, fast surface. So if you're going to get some light rain in that ball game, you might be looking at a free 10 points now.
That's true. And you bring up the fact that it's not going to affect Tulane much at all. Tulane doesn't throw it. But what about Tulsa? I mean, I don't like their quarterback anyway. The president kid, I think he's overrated. But I haven't seen too many of their games. I mean, this year, are they going more to just run-based attack only from the shotgun set?
Yeah, leaning on Brewer a lot. It reminds me a little bit of a type of offense that you're going to run, maybe New Mexico or something. I mean, they don't use three backs as much, but it's a lot of read option back here. He's a really quick quarterback doing that. But if we looked in the past, Dane Evans, I mean, they're throwing the ball all over the yard. It's almost completely reversed here. But the best part about this, Drew, is they still go 100 miles an hour. So when you try to watch like an Army, a New Mexico, or even a Tulane where they don't go as fast, like they read handoff, they get 5 yards, and they're up on the ball, Drew, snapping it with 27 seconds left on the play clock. That's going to force the issue because Tulane doesn't want to go that fast. They're not a slow team. I mean, they're not going to run it all the way down like an Army or Navy would. So you're going to get some extra swings at the plate in this one. It will be interesting. So I'm going to definitely check into that. So we'll see what takes place. Anything out there in the chat box, guys, that you have? We'll go over a couple of these games, but that was certainly an interesting one, bringing up the weather, volleying it right from Florida State, Miami to now over to Tulane. Some time changes in there. The Miami game for now is still going to stay. It looks like at 3 p.m. or 3:30 start. Not going to move that game up. Another interesting one, Drew. Let's keep it in the ACC, 345, 346. Wake Forest and Clemson. Obviously, we know Clemson's been there, done that, so to speak, off a big win going into Blacksburg. Wake Forest at home had the win in their grasp to knock off Florida State. They're out of that one as well. So two teams heading into this football game. I don't want to say, deflated because Clemson won. They're still in the national championship hunt. They're probably the best team overall in the ACC. But you just had that emotional win in Blacksburg on a Saturday night. Now you come home and you say what you want. Wake Forest is a good football team, but Clemson's saying, hey, it's not Alabama. It's not Florida State. It's not Miami. It's not Louisville. It's not Virginia Tech. It's Wake Forest coming here to play football. And look, from Wake's perspective, like, we finally got a chance. We're going to beat Florida State. It's going to be a monumental win for our program. You lose that in the fourth quarter. Now you head towards Clemson to play. That's a big line, Drew, and it's sitting right on the number, 21.5. Haven't seen much movement throughout the week. Obviously, if it dips below 20.5 or 20, you're probably going to lean Clemson. But over, you're going to have to beat Wake Forest by over 3 touchdowns. But, fading Clemson, to me, I don't know if it's always a great thing here. Seem to be having a little bit of technical difficulties there. You there, Drew?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You were going in and out, man. I just heard you talk about Wake and Clemson. Yeah. I think the 21.5, the way I would look is towards Wake. I think that they're really well coached. And in Clemson, I think you were saying, is coming off of the game versus, a big-time game. And Wake coming in, I know it's in Clemson, tough place to play. But it's an early game. Day games in Clemson are not the same as a night game. So
looks like the hurricane might be affecting us down there, or the tropical storm down there interrupting. But hey, it's live. It's Hangouts. This is what happens on Hangouts. You get some freeze. You got some movements. You got some ins and outs there. So we'll wait for Drew to get back here online with us in just a few moments. Still there, Drew? Nah, it looks like he froze up there. So we'll keep it moving here on the list. A couple games I saw Isan out there talking about an interesting game with Utah versus Stanford. So taking a look at that Pac-12 battle, that should be a good matchup. Still there, Drew? I hear you coming in and out there.
Yeah, I'm here. I mean, I just heard you say Utah, Stanford. I like the Utah situation. I like the two quarterback situation, both athletic dudes. I think that they can make a lot happen against Stanford's defense. And I like Utah's kind of, the front seven of their defense and front eight probably against Stanford to be able to kind of hold them in check. So I like the home dog there, especially in Salt Lake City. What do you think?
Yeah, dropping there. I do agree. I've seen Utah in a couple of these spots here at home at the Muss. I mean, a good home field advantage, a good environment there. I'm not a big buyer on Stanford yet. I know Bryce Love, very good running back, very talented there, but I think Utah matches up pretty well. I know they're down one quarterback, but they're almost a clone. If you look at both of those starting quarterbacks and what they can do, the read option, they're both very efficient in that. Can throw the football a little bit. Carrington, a wide receiver for Utah, certainly has helped that. Over-under opened up at 55, 53, depending where you shop that, down to 52. If I'm leaning towards a side in this football game, probably won't be betting it, but I do like Utah here at night. I think it's going to be a good home field advantage. Utah's built for this. Good head coaching staff, good physical football team. I think they can take it to Stanford here. And again, they're getting points. You're not asking them to win the football game. Just hang around the fourth quarter, maybe steal one. But I think they are a live dog to win the football game straight up here. Costa Rica internet here again for us. Oh, well. We'll see what happens down in Costa Rica, folks. We're going to flip the script a little bit about 6:25 Eastern time. Why don't we get over to the main event, as what I like to say. And I like to talk about a lot about the NFL. Some interesting facts and factoids bouncing around at this time. Will or not Marcus Mariota play for Tennessee at this point? Who's going to be playing for the New York Giants? They're all banged up. Also, the Monday Night Football game, Minnesota still undecided if they're going to talk with Sam Bradford and go back and forth with that. So we'll take a look here at some NFL action. Anybody out there have any questions? I mean, we can dip down and go over each and every one of these football games to see what we can do. Some interesting ones also, 467, 468, Seattle going to line up and take the field against the Rams, the upstart Rams. And if you followed me throughout SBR on the summer, I was the one kicking the door in here for the Los Angeles Rams. You back, Drew?
I muted it.
All right, doesn't look like he's back yet, so we'll keep on. See, isn't this fun? I get some camera time here. I get a little bit more exposure here to run the show here on the closing line. So we'll keep it moving here. Seattle and the Rams. Looks like the betting is, I don't want to say even here. It's 60-40 split there to Seattle. Line opened up here as a favorite to the Rams, which showed them a lot of respect at -2. Also -1 at Chris, sitting across the board right now. -1, -1.5, depending where you shop. The Rams have played Seattle very good over the past couple seasons, but Sean McVay has been unbelievable early. If you watched the game last week versus the Dallas Cowboys, that's an offense in tune. Tripped up a little bit against the Washington Redskins, but the Washington Redskins are a decent football team. Pounded Indianapolis, but overall, I'm very impressed with what the Rams are showing on offense. I think Gurley's going to be able to run the football against that front seven versus the Seattle Seahawks. Cliff Avrill's not going to play in this football game. That's also going to be big. One of the cornerbacks is down opposite Richard Sherman. I believe Lane, I want to say. I don't know why it's slipping my mind at this point, but that should be an interesting one. Over-under in that game sitting at 46.5, 47. I don't have really a good read on that, but the one thing I like about this football game is that front seven, particularly the front four, particularly Aaron Donald, wrecking that entire offense down there. Doug Baldwin did get in a full practice on Friday, so he is ready to go in that football game. We'll see if that's going to help him out downfield, but hey, we've seen it. Seattle at home, damn good football team. Take them out of Seattle. They're a little bit vulnerable. Tennessee dismantled that defense, and I think the Rams are every bit as good as on offense as that game. So haven't fired on that football game, but I'm trying to make a case for the Los Angeles Rams. Doesn't look like DeMarcus Jordan is going to play in that game, which is key. I think he's their best player in the secondary, but that front seven should be able to put heat on Russell Wilson in that game. Back over there, Drew. What do we got?
Hey, I'm back. If you can hear me, I just don't want to ruin your show, man. You were having a good flow there, Donnie.
No, man. Yeah, no. Let's get you back in here. We just flipped it over a little bit to some NFL action to go over today. Obviously, there's still some baseball in play. Taking a look at a few of these games. I mean, I want to talk about the trash can bowl, so to speak, between the Jets and the Browns. 455, 456. McCown versus Kaiser on here. I see these lines bouncing back and forth. It's a 50-50 split on tickets, right? So we have a 50-50 split in the NFL. That means half of the tickets, Drew, are anticipating a Cleveland Browns victory. Is that insane to think about?
Yeah, I mean, betting the Cleveland Browns, it's like betting UTEP, man. That's tough to do.
I mean, they don't win. They never win. Now you're expecting them to win. And earlier before the season, we're saying, hey, man, Jets might go 0-16. That's a really bad football team. Oh, no doubt Cleveland's going to pace them when they play them at home. Cleveland's a much better overall team. Cleveland stinks. I mean, I'm not betting this football game, and I'm not just flipping a coin on it because I don't really know how good the Jets are. They were at home the last 2 weeks. It's early in the season. That talent's going to run out for that football team. They're a bad team. Whether or not they win 5 to 6 games now as opposed to 3 to 4 games, that's going to be determined. But the one thing I know is Cleveland stinks. Cleveland turns it over. Cleveland has no defense. Cleveland has no head coach. Cleveland has no front office. Cleveland has no ownership. And that's hard to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, but what about the Jets side, Donnie? I mean, what are you thinking about the Jets in this situation? I guess, at a pick-and-play price on the road, is that the way you would bet it?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't stay anywhere. I mean, this is legit, as good as a coin flip game you can get, and it's a 50-50 split. The only thing I always like to poke fun at is you're expecting Cleveland to win a football game, which doesn't – I mean, you're more likely to see like a unicorn run across the street down there in Costa Rica than Cleveland actually putting together 4 quarters of a game and winning. Now, if you said, hey, look at Jets are in town, Cleveland's getting 3.5 or 7.5, you'd say, all right, just hang around in the fourth quarter, and we might be able to cover it. Don't know if we can win. But you have to win the football game here with Cleveland. Looking from a Jets perspective, they're playing hard. I'm not a huge Todd Bowles fan, but he has the defense playing well. You have a veteran quarterback in McCown. He's not a great quarterback, but I'd much rather at this point have him this season, this game, than Deshaun Kaiser out there just throwing interceptions all over the place. Overall, talent-wise, the Jets aren't that talented of a team, but I just think they're overall a better team because Cleveland doesn't know how to win. And teams that don't know how to win make stupid mistakes, head coaching mistakes, young quarterback throwing interceptions. That's what you're probably going to lean on. If you say, hey, Don, you got to bet this game, I'm taking the Jets. Even if the Jets are on the road, I'd rather have them over Cleveland any day of the week here.
Yeah, and what they put together 2 straight wins, right? And 2 straight ATS wins. So yeah, I guess they got a little thing going there. Granted, it was against the Dolphins and the Jags, but still, the 23-20 win against the Jags isn't terrible. Whereas compare that to 3 straight ATS losses for Cleveland. No way I'm betting the Browns, man.
Yeah, no, that's just a trash game overall. Another one looking at 457, 458, Jacksonville and Pittsburgh. Reason I bring this game up here, Drew, line opened up about 8.5. I did see some 9s earlier in the week. Pinnacle showing -7.5, -100. And Chris did open up about 15 to 20 minutes ago, -7, -116 in the favor of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because this one is very interesting. Pittsburgh, I don't want to say, an upset locker room. That's maybe a little bit harsh at this point. It's early in the season. They're not losing every football game. They had a nice win versus Baltimore, but you had the whole thing with the anthem protest. You have, a diva wide receiver going nuts because he wants the ball every single play. It doesn't matter where the football goes. I want the football. There's a lot of weapons on that team. So what you can anticipate from this is, do you think the Pittsburgh locker room is a little bit upset at this point, or do you think it's galvanizing? Because if you heard on the radio this week, if you saw the clips, Ben Roethlisberger sort of laying into Antonio Brown saying, hey, man, this ain't good for the team. You tried this last year. If you remember the playoff run they were making where he's in the back when Mike Tomlin's, trying to talk some trash and, get the team motivated, and he just has the camera like right in front of his face smiling and putting everything on there. They reprimanded him for that. They talked about a fracture at that point, but I don't know how that's going to play out. If you're looking at this football game and you like Pittsburgh, I don't see Pittsburgh in this game, Drew, winning this game by 3 or 6 points or keeping it close. Pittsburgh's either going to win this game, to me, Drew, by 14 points, or they're probably going to get upset in the spot. Because if you look at it from Jacksonville's perspective coming in, they want to run the ball with Leonard Fournette. They don't have a high pad. They lost Allen Robinson early in the season. They do lean on a very good defense, but they don't have enough horses here to come in and beat Pittsburgh. And also in the NFL, it's tough to win and play on the road 2 straight weeks. You saw them get beat by the Jets last week. Now they're going to have to go on another road trip to Pittsburgh, back up to the Northeast. Tough to do. I'm not saying take the Steelers here, but I don't see the Steelers squeaking by in this one if they win this football game.
Yeah, Donnie, I mean, when I break this game down, I mean, the Jacksonville side, I can't figure out the Jags. You know, they beat Houston, great win. And then outside of that, you know, I guess the Baltimore game as well. But the other two times, I mean, they lost against the Jets. I can't figure them out. And as far as Pittsburgh goes, you bring up some good points on fractured locker room. I think that stuff's real. But it affecting their offense is a big deal. And it shows, you know, they're an under team. What, 4 straight unders this year? So I don't know if a lot's going to change. I would bet on this game towards the under.
Yeah, you have a good point in that, because you're looking at the Pittsburgh offense. There's weapons all over the field. One of the best, if not the best, running back in the game. You know, you have a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's getting up there in the age, but you have a great wide receiver core. You have a talented defense at this point. They just haven't put it together yet. The one thing that's going to give Jacksonville a fighting chance is, you know, Drew, playing football your whole life, defense travels. When you have a good defense, you're always typically going to be in football games and not get blown away, because they'll keep you in it, keeping pressure on the quarterback, get some good cornerbacks out there. Ramsey, one of the best in the NFL, even as a young guy, so he'll be lined up probably a lot of the times on Antonio Brown. But just looking at it overall, I don't know if you can go on the road 2 straight weeks. Jacksonville's not supposed to win this football game. I mean, if you lay this game down, you know, 8.5 coming in, Pittsburgh's the much more talented team. They're at home. It's a tough place to play when you go into Pittsburgh. It's just a matter of, will Pittsburgh get clicking again? Because once they do, that offense is talented, and I don't see them squeaking by in this game. You're either going to get a big victory, or Pittsburgh's probably going to come right down to the wire and get beaten this one. That's just my 2 cents on this Pittsburgh game here, Drew.
Hey, I don't disagree, Donnie. I'll take your advice. You know the NFL a lot better than I do.
Let's take a look at another one here. Drew, hits close to home here. The hot Philadelphia Eagles, 3-1, sitting in first place in the NFC East, just like we all thought. Carson Palmer coming to town versus Carson Wentz, the battle of the Carsons. One old man that can't move in the pocket, one young gunslinger out there. But looking at this line overall, Drew, it stayed about the same. I mean, it opened up at 6.5 at Pinnacle, opened up at 6 at Chris, sitting primarily 6.5 across the board. Supposed to be some nice weather up here in the Northeast for that football game on Sunday. Over under 45. I can see it going both ways and making a case for that. The one thing that's going to have to take place in this one is Arizona's very banged up on the offensive line, Drew. And that's not a good thing, especially when your quarterback and your offense, Bruce Arians, is built on the 5-step drop and throwing the ball deep. Larry Fitzgerald's a good wide receiver. He's old. I don't know when Father Time's going to catch up with him or Tom Brady. It doesn't seem like it does. But if you're looking at him, he's going to get his. He's probably going to have his normal against the Eagles, 7 catches, 88 yards, and a freak touchdown or a couple freak catches like he tends to do every game. This game's going to be won by the Philadelphia Eagles outside of Larry Fitzgerald with the Wooderbug wideouts, like I like to call them, with the Arizona Cardinals. Very fast, you know, the Nelsons and the Browns, you know, little 5'5" guys that run a 4.2 40. Because the one thing you can do against the Philadelphia Eagles, they have very good safeties. But as a unit itself, Drew, in the secondary, they're not the fastest unit out there. If you saw last week, you know, the Keenan Allens of the world, getting, you know, deep, getting off, and being able to run for long distances and not be able to catch up, because that's not what the Eagles do. You know, once Darby comes back, Sidney Jones comes off the bench, they're going to be a much faster secondary and be able to lock up and, you know, get after some of these smaller, faster wide receivers. But the one thing that gives me pause, if you're an Eagles fan, and it's a good pause, is that front seven should be able to get home against Carson Palmer. Everybody has done so far. He tends to hold the ball on longer. And again, he's looked decent in the pocket at times here, you know, slide stepping, pass rushes, stepping up in the pocket, delivering good footballs downfield. He's a pretty good deep ball thrower as is. But again, like I said, he's not very mobile anymore, Drew. Likes to take that 5-step drop. There's going to be some shots for the Brandon Grahams of the world, the Timmy Jernigans and the Vinny Currys to come off that edge and get him here in this one.
Yeah, I love that Philly defensive line versus Arizona Cardinal offensive line matchup. I think that the Eagles should make their day a really long one. And I mean, Carson Palmer, not very mobile. I think that's an understatement. You know, he's a statue back there. Even going back to his USC days, I don't think he was very mobile. So now that he's damn near 40, I'm not betting on him. And they haven't won against the spread yet this year, so I'm not going to start now. So yeah, it'd be Philadelphia Eagles or pass for me. Although I don't really like laying points in the NFL, rarely ever do it. So I'm not betting this one, Donnie.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I always like to try to build a case. And again, you know, Jeff laughs at me all the time. Like this week again, you know, I'm putting in the work. I'm getting the numbers up, trying to build a case. I don't think the Eagles are going to lose this football game. Don't get me wrong. But again, in the NFL, when you're dealing with 6.5 or 7 points, it's not so much can you win the football game. It's 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. The Philadelphia Eagles are up, you know, 10 points, let's just say. And the only thing they care about is saying, you want to score, you better eat up a minute and 30, and we're going to win the football game anyway. Carson Palmer and that offense can probably move down the field and score, because it's not like saying, hey, the Eagles need a stand, or the Eagles punch one in with, a minute to go and a tie game to go up 7 to win that one. It's a matter of the backdoor cover. So we'll see if Arizona can recover. But I'm not high on Arizona. They had a couple home games. Now they're doing that whole thing, Drew, that a lot of people talk about, West Coast, East Coast, 1 o'clock start, and see how that matches up. There is a little bit to that. I don't like to play a lot into it, but the Eagles are a very, very good home team, coming in a little bit healthier. Obviously, Fletcher Cox isn't going to play in this football game. Doesn't look like Wendell Smallwood's going to play either. So a heavy run doses of LeGarrette Blount. The one thing you have to like if you are backing the Arizona Cardinals in this one is you have Patrick Peterson back there, and you have the Honey Badger. Patrick Peterson is known for shadowing the best wide receiver of each and every team that he plays. So he'll be on Alshon Jeffrey, which leaves it up to the other guys, like the Torrey Smiths and the Nelson Aguilars, who are going to have to beat their guys one-on-one. And right now, if you've seen anything out of the Philadelphia Eagles over the past first couple weeks, is that Torrey Smith can't catch a cold right now. No matter where you throw him the football, it's not happening. So somebody's going to have to win. It's going to be a nice game for Zach Ertz over the middle. Maybe LeGarrette Blount gets 20 touches in this football game to keep it close. The Eagles are the better football team here, but that whole concept of, can you build a case for a team that's going to get 6.5? Arizona, I don't like them that much, but you can build a case that they might be able to hang around in the end here.
Donnie, I was losing you, man. Not sure what you were saying.
I was just going on a diatribe over the Eagles, how you can go back and forth on a couple of those things and see how it works out. Some interesting games late, Drew. Let's get to the bigger games on the card. 425 start, 471, 472. Green Bay and Dallas. I'm telling you, Drew, I've been going back and forth on this game every single day and trying to build a case for both of these teams, because a lot of the things line up. I love home teams in the NFL. I love home teams laying less than 3 or catching points at home. I love home teams with a really good offensive line, a mobile quarterback, a dominant running game. But you look on the other side of the ball, it's Aaron Rodgers there. And they've had a lot of time off, but they're still a really beaten-up football team. Not sure if they're going to have both of their tackles back for this football game. Not sure if Ty Montgomery, I think he got downgraded to doubtful heading into the game. Also with Devontae Adams, and he basically got his head lopped off in the Chicago Bears game. Looked like he was coming up, but he's still in concussion protocol. They don't even know if he's going to get on the plane to head down to Dallas or not. So it's an injured football team from Green Bay, a rested team, but still injured on a lot of fronts here. Dallas really needs this football game since they lost a home game last week to the Rams. Could be a death sentence if they take another NFC loss at home. But again, it's no shame to lose to Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. But I think that line is still showing Dallas a little bit of a respect here. I know it dipped maybe at 1.5 and 2. Now it looks like it's coming back up. The Greek showing Drew -2.5, -120. Pinnacle -2.5, -112. So maybe a lean towards that 3 as we get a little bit closer to the game. But the one thing that you look at the Dallas Cowboys, which I loved last week, is if the Cowboys have Sean Lee in the football game. Now, keep in mind, he's listed as questionable, but in the NFL, he hasn't practiced Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. And when you hear those magical words out there, game time decision, it means one thing to me, Drew. If he is a go in that football game, he's literally an eggshell out there just waiting to break.
Yeah, I like that concept that you just brought up. And also keep in mind, Dallas is back-to-back home games. So even though Green Bay has a little bit extra time to prepare, I think that's kind of neutralized by Dallas being, not having to hit the road in back-to-back games. Even though they did lose to LA, I didn't get a chance to see that game, Donnie. What did you see to let the LA Rams score 35 points, though, man? That is a little bit scary if you're looking to lay it with Dallas.
Yeah, McVay had him going in that ball game. I mean, Gurley was amazing out of the backfield running the football and obviously catching the football. Rams caught a little bit of breaks early on, a fumble from Switzer on a punt when I believe Dallas was up 10 points at that point, helped shift that game back. But in the second half, they were down, I believe, was it 7? I can't remember the exact score at halftime, but they were down at the half, came out right away, forced a 3-and-out. The Dallas Cowboys did. But, the Rams, Wade Phillips, put a nice little defensive game plan together, made some adjustments in the second half. Dallas, Dak Prescott not very efficient in the second half of that ball game. But the Rams just took it to them, and they were the better football team in the second half and pulled out that victory, which is interesting because Dallas typically a very good home game, but it all predicated again here. David Irving, I believe, is coming back for this football game for the Cowboys. That's going to help out that pass rush a little bit. But if your quarterback in the middle, Sean Lee, is not there, that's a terrible team because they can't just lean on cornerbacks and safeties. They don't have any. Still there? Yes. Look at that. It's back to being my show alone again. Drew can't hear us. We'll make fun of him as I can see him on the screen in the background. If he gets in there live again, he can wave to me. But we'll keep it moving here down on the list. A couple interesting games. Here's what I'm looking at. Now, hear me out on this football game. It's not a great game. It's not a great game on the card. 459 and 460. Tennessee and Miami. Jay Cutler versus undecided in this game. Line opened up here, came out, I guess, about, I want to say when we were during the taping of the Right Side of Campus Day, when we were doing a live show, and it opened up at -3, and I believe it was like -3, -130, -125 if you're going to take Tennessee. Now, hear me out in this game just from a betting perspective of what you might be looking forward to. Games played in Miami. It's going to be on Sunday. Looks like, I mean, again, it's not a true open atmosphere, but the field over top does have the cutout. So if there's some elements going on, some wind, some rain, it's going to hit the field here. Now, coming out from Tennessee saying, oh, man, a little bit more optimistic here. We're going to look to maybe get Marcus Mariota back in here. He's your franchise quarterback. He's got a bum hamstring. He's not the guy that sits back in the pocket that can just say, you know what, like a Brett Favre or a Aaron Rodgers. Doesn't matter if my hamstring or my calf is injured in this one. Looks like we lost him to it, but doesn't matter if it's injured. You know, I'll just make throws from the pocket. He's built on the read option. He's built on getting to the edges. That's what makes him work here. Now, it still shows undecided. Tennessee is going to be under the cloak and dagger of what I like to say, of what they actually want to get after and what they want to play for. But here's what's going to take place. Going out, he's going to warm up on the field. The key ingredient here, you see it a lot in baseball, you saw it a lot over the summer. Yoenis Cespedes, Bryce Harper, when they had a little bit of a bum leg there, you don't bring them back when it's going to be a slick surface. In Miami on Sunday, looking at light rain to drizzle, that's going to be all afternoon long. I don't think ahead of time that's a smart move for the Tennessee Titans right now to play Marcus Mariota. But the betting public's going to see right now he's game time decision. I think he's going to play. But if there's those elements creep into it and it rains on the field or rains in Miami, I don't think he's going to start, which is going to lead to the backup quarterback, which is Matt Castle on that football team. That's going to be an advantage. You're going to get the Miami Dolphins at plus money already right now. Regardless if he plays, I don't think that line is probably going to creep up to 3.5 or 4 with Tennessee. But you're going to get that whole shock like, oh, my God, Marcus Mariota is out of the football game. And you're going to see that dive and that hit to Miami where it might push that to 2.5 or 2 or 1 by the time we get to game time. Just a little food for thought if you're looking at that football game and maybe a betting angle that might help you out. I'm leaning towards Marcus Mariota not playing in that football game, and you might be able to steal maybe a half line or 2 points or something like that, depending on when it comes down. And I know Miami, they stink right now, right? But let's take a look at Miami on the whole. You had the first game versus Tampa Bay. It got canceled. That was your home game. You flew out to the West Coast a week early because the hurricane was coming. You went down, you played the Chargers, you beat them on a last-second field goal that was missed in that Young Hoo Koo or whatever his name was, missed when you took the victory out there. You flew all the way back. You had to resettle your family. You go up and you get your butt kicked by the Jets up in the Meadowlands, which not very many people saw in that game. Then you flew home or you flew over to Europe, whatever you did, you had to play in London. You didn't look very good either playing in that situation versus the New Orleans Saints. Now you fly back home. You have your first home game of the year where you can circle the wagons. You're 1-2. You can beat this team and get back to 2-2. It's just a good spot for Miami betting wise. Even if you hate Jay Cutler, I hate Jay Cutler. I just think it's a good spot. Tennessee's defense, are they, the roaring 70s Pittsburgh Steelers, the 85 Bears? It's not what they are. They're an okay defense where there's a lot of talent. Jay Ajayi was just taken off of the injury report this week. Last week had a bum knee. No longer the case. They should be full go at all positions, catching points at home. And I think by game time, if Marcus Mariota plays, I don't know how efficient he's going to be in running the football. He's just going to be a pocket passer. But if it's raining out there, don't be surprised if they just hold him out and hold him over for the second week in that ball game just to get him healthy here. But I think it's a good spot. Circle the wagons for the Dolphins. A lot of things pointing in the Dolphins' direction. And the best part of all, it's the NFL. They're going to be a home dog in this environment as it stands right now. It's just some food or thought that you might want to take a look at if you're betting in that football game as well. Another interesting one, if we take a look, Baltimore and the Oakland Raiders, 469-470. Flacco versus E.J. Manuel right now. But some interesting information coming out with the Oakland Raiders today. I'm seeing Carr practicing out there. The dude is practicing with a transverse fracture in his back where they said he's probably going to be out 2 to 6 weeks, and he's actually listed as questionable. I don't think it would be smart right now if they put him out there versus a decent Ravens defense. I think it's going to be E.J. Manuel's game. I actually would have liked it better if Carr wasn't even involved in the process trying to bring up a case for EJ Manuel. I know that Manuel's getting most of the snaps, but still, if you're David Carr, you're going to try to fight the play, and if you can stand up straight and take a pain injection just to get over it, you're going to want to be in that football game. So I hope it doesn't take the focus off EJ Manuel rallying the troops, and he's going to be there on Sunday and see what happens there, because I don't think Baltimore is a very good overall football team. One cornerback, it's slipping my mind here, Jimmy Smith, excuse me. He's going to play in this football game. Was a little bit 50-50 during the week. Achilles injury showed up midweek, but he's going to be in that one. Baltimore's going to have a pretty good defense, but if you're asking me to lean on a game right now in that situation, I would take the Raiders -2, -2.5, depending on where you're getting it. I think EJ Manuel for 1 week can stem the tide in this one, and you're not going to ask him to score a lot of points here because, again, you're leaning on Baltimore's offense to go up and down that field. They're more of a field goal kicking team. They didn't look very good last week versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the week before, they looked completely awful heading over in the London game versus Jacksonville. Unless you turn the ball over right now 4 to 5 times for Baltimore, you're probably going to be able to handle them. So nice home play maybe for the Oakland Raiders, -2, -2.5, keep it under 3, I think is a pretty sound one down there. Anything out in the chat box that's popping right now as we go along, just to have a little bit of fun here. I know the baseball games are winding down. I don't have those up on my monitor to take a look at, but I'd much rather talk football anyway. Any college football out there that we're looking at, or NFL action? Interesting one, even Sunday night, Kansas City and Houston, man. Kansas City definitely looks like the best spot in football right now. Really good football team, but I think Houston's going to be sneaking around that chicken coop in that football game. You know me. You've watched me on a lot of shows when I was ripping Deshaun Watson. Didn't think he could play football. Eyes down versus Cincinnati. Short work week. Didn't look very good, but they somehow pulled that game out. Looked markedly better after a rest in his first real start, I like to say, in New England, which they didn't win that game. They probably should have won that football game, but came home and absolutely took the Tennessee Titans apart. He looked fantastic in that game, very mobile. The read option offense that Bill O'Brien's put in for them, they're going to be hell on wheels going forward if they can keep him healthy and upright. Mance is going to play in this game, the center for Houston, so he's going to be back in the fold. I was waiting on some injury information for that. Nice to get Will Fuller back. To give another weapon on the side for Hopkins on the other side. Lamar Miller looked like he was running decent last week. And if there's a spot for Kansas City to lose, I mean, they're not going 16-0. They're not running the table. They're going to lose football games. If you're looking from a competitive standpoint here, Houston needs this game a lot more than Kansas City does. But right now, Kansas City's not turning the football over. They look really good. But you can make an argument over their games that they had. The Philadelphia Eagles game was tied in the fourth quarter. A deflection off a helmet for an interception changed the course of that game with about 7 minutes ago in the fourth quarter. Fast forward to last week versus the Washington Redskins. Got out early, 10-0, and driving. Couldn't put that game away. And then late in the ball game, Kirk Cousins drives him down, throws a touchdown pass to Josh Doxson. He can't hang on. Doxson hangs on to that football game. Kansas City takes the loss in there. I know a lot of people look, hey, Kareem Hunt's a great running back. Yes, he's a great running back. Alex Smith not turning the football over. But do they have the chops to go down with the banged-up now offensive line and play Houston and Houston feeling good about themselves? So certainly an interesting one that you want to take away with as well. But that's the NFL. I mean, there's a lot of good spots this weekend. Just have to pick and choose. The Monday Night Football game looks like it's going to stink. All points headed to Sam Bradford actually playing in that game. But is anybody out there going to bet the Chicago Bears? I mean, if you want to take that whole, Thursday night rested, which I like that option, and you got the young rookie court, but who is he throwing to? Who's he handing off to? I mean, when it's all said and done, Minnesota's defense is a kick-ass defense, and Zimmer is going to have them balling to go against a rookie and throw everything in the kitchen sink at Trubisky, who's only had like 12 or 13 starts in college. Now he's going to get baptism under fire. At least he's going to be at home, but he's going against a top 5, top 6 defense in the NFL with the Minnesota Vikings. I know Dalvin Cook's out of that football game, but it doesn't come down to the Vikings there. It comes down to the Chicago Bears. What are the Chicago Bears going to do in that game? How are they moving the football against Minnesota? Are they going to put up 21 points or 24 points to win that football game? I'm hard-pressed to find it. You try to build a case for Chicago since they're home and they're off rest and get that bump for a young rookie, but when it all boils down to it, I mean, it's still the Chicago Bears out there, right? I mean, just always something interesting to look at. And I mean, it's very fluid. Maybe changes your mind where Bradford doesn't play in that game. Case Keenum plays in that game. But again, it's still boiling down to you're betting the Bears. And you're betting the Bears with a guy who's never started an NFL football game. Ooh, he looked great in a preseason game. He rolled out of the pocket and threw a 7-yard touchdown pass. My God, we got to start him and get him in there. There's a reason why they didn't put him in that Green Bay game, because he's not ready to go into prime time yet. You have 10, 14 days, whatever it is, to get ready for this football game, get the youngster going. But again, he's still a youngster, doesn't know the NFL game, and he's going against a very good defense. You're not playing the Jets in this football game. You're not playing the Cleveland Browns in this football game. You're going against a legitimate defense with a legitimate coordinator. So it should be a lot of fun to watch in that ball game. A couple minutes here left in the show, so I know there must be some storms going down there in Costa Rica just to hang out and go over some things. You get the NCAA football game tonight, Memphis, Connecticut, Boise, BYU. Overall, not really impressed with the college football card, value-wise, or what some of these lines are looking at. The Notre Dame's 15.5, banged up quarterback, UNC stinks. I get that all stuff, but I mean, it's say what you will. I think the NFL card to me is a little bit more interesting. Some other games, you got a couple trash games in the NFL, though. I mean, San Francisco, Indianapolis, trash. New York Jets, Cleveland, trash. I mean, Buffalo, Cincinnati, that's a pretty even game there. Sitting at -3. Hasn't changed much over the week. I know Chris opened up at -1, Pinnacle 1.5. I'm actually surprised it opened that low, but 3 seems to be about a pretty good number in that one. QQ Wilson says, Donnie, what's your number 1 dog on Sunday? If I had to take a look at an underdog, because it's not a lot, I don't like a lot of teams, in that 6 or 7 point range. So I wouldn't say like Arizona would be a live dog. I wouldn't say Jacksonville would be a live dog in that instance. I would have to say, taking like a dog, I think Green Bay could be a live dog, getting the 2.5 points in that spot, depending on Kansas City if they're, +1, but that's not a big dog. But I could see Houston maybe getting a victory in that spot. A lot of people leaning on Carolina as a live dog. I just don't see it. I mean, I like the fact that Detroit is at home, Matthew Stafford. It's going to be a close game. They play good defense. Maybe Carolina took a deep breath because they stole one in New England, and now they can afford to lose this football game. The whole Cam Newton, instead of studying his playbook, has to come up and do like 15 takes to take, apologies to, women writers down there. She got that whole thing swirling over their head. But being lost in that is Detroit's a good football team. They're going to be in it to the end. That line is a little bit short to me here. I think it should be 3, but hovering at 2.5 might be a decent one there. Donnie, what's your opinion about Marshall and Charlotte? Not much of an opinion on that one. I'm not really impressed by Charlotte. I think Georgia State pasted them 28-0 last week. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So I would lean towards Marshall in that spot and see what happens in that game. Was ready to bet BYU, and the injury report saved me. Injury report in what way? Didn't BYU get a little bit of help in that game? With their quarterback coming back. So I don't know how much the injury report's going to save you if you were going to bet that game, because it looks like it dipped to around 7 or so in that range. But a lot of stuff to go over Friday football. So we'll end the show here and we'll take it down. Hey, I was able to lost my co-pilot about midway through this mission. Finish it up here talking NFL. I got a lot of work to do tomorrow for the college football card. Sent out a couple plays already for the National Football League card. A lot of stuff to be desired. There's about 2 or 3 games in the NFL, which I still would like to hit on. So it looks like a very good NFL card shaping up. We'll be able to pick some winners here out for Saturday as well. Closing line for October the 6th, presented by SportsbookReview.com. Was your host today, Donnie Rightside. Drew Martin did dip in and out here down in Costa Rica. You can follow him at Drew Martin Bets. Always a lot of fun. We're able to connect either with Matthew Holt, since it was a hangout session as opposed to a studio session. So we'll get checked in back with him on Monday. But everything should be a great weekend here. I'll be live on Twitter, so, hit me up. I'll be watching these football and baseball games. We'll have a lot of fun. Also, tomorrow, setting up the weekend, I always like to talk about my good buddy, Big Man on Campus, and also Peter Loshak doing their show tomorrow, 11 a.m. They've been on fire the past couple weeks. It's a very live and engaging chat box. If you want some free winners in there, certainly dip into that. On Sunday, I'll be with Gabe, as usual, for the Closing Line NFL edition, 12 to 1 o'clock. Get you set up, give you some free plays we can dig into, and also come back on at the half, see what some of these ways are going. Maybe we can hedge out of some plays. Maybe we have some good second half plays to get after, but I'll certainly be engaged in the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday versus the Arizona Cardinals. So a lot of fun here at SBR. Follow me on Twitter at RightSideVP. You can always check me out as well. For everybody here at SBR, check out SBROdds.com. Give us a follow on Twitter, folks, at SBR Sports Picks. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Give us a like. Let us know what you feel from all of us here at SportsbookReview.com. Good luck on all your wagers tonight, folks. We hope we helped you beat the closing line. Slay them this week, folks. Cash those tickets.